For me, bullying did not become a significant issue until I reached middle school. And what triggered a lot of my bullying is the fact that when you're in middle school, like around 6th grade, 7th grade, men and women, boys and girls start maturing into their bodies. They hit puberty. And I was one of the kids that hit puberty very late. My voice didn't deepen until the end of high school, if not later. I couldn't grow facial hair. A lot of people in my school could grow facial hair in middle school, which was a little bit alarming. But that was a sign of masculinity, and it was a sign of manhood. And to most of those individuals, I lacked that. But the first moment where I knew I was being bullied relentlessly was in 6th grade out on the playground for recess. And everyone else was on this balancing beam. They were trying to walk across it. They were balancing themselves on it because they could do it, and they were awesome for being able to do it. And back then I always had this insatiable desire to want to prove myself to everyone else, because to everyone I was nothing but a really short, small freak who was a bit nerdy and a teacher's pet. So I wanted to prove to all the other guys especially that, I could do this too, that I was really awesome. So I get up on there and I try to balance on it, and I'm balancing like I could do it, and then suddenly this rather heavy-set girl runs up, shoves the back of my leg, and I fall. I fall onto the metal bottom of this balancing beam. I smacked my arm on it. I hit the back of my head against the platform, and I remember almost blacking out. I remember seeing blackness and blue speckles, and I couldn't breathe. The wind was knocked out of me, and all I could hear was laughing from people around me, and instantly I wanted to disappear because everybody was looking at me. I wanted to cry, but I don't know how I made myself not cry, but somehow I did not cry, even though every part of my body was telling me to. It hurt so bad. Within minutes, I started developing bruises along my arm and my side and the back of my neck. I went to the principal's office to report the issue, and basically they did reprimand this person, but they told me that I shouldn't provoke people by doing things like that. I shouldn't put myself in that type of position. And that's when I really realized that adults did not have my back. And it really upset me. I kind of lost a lot of faith in adults at that point in my life. And this led to another bullying experience later in middle school. I think I was in 8th grade and I don't think the teacher, there is a teacher who actually participated with the students who were bullying me, and I don't think she intentionally did it, but she did it nevertheless. We were in class, and one of my friends, we were kind of, joking around and laughing, and I, slid up against the wall, and I slid down onto the floor, and I had my legs out, and someone pointed and was like, haha, look, they're having sex. And I felt so embarrassed, because I was because everyone started laughing. I could not handle laughing. And I looked at the teacher, hoping that she would, stop them from doing this, and she was laughing too. And that really upset me, especially, again, I went and I talked to someone about it, but nobody really did anything. Mostly middle school involved a lot of other guys invalidating my masculinity, and I think that's why I started developing this huge insecurity when it comes to masculinity. I would always have comments of oh, I bet you don't have any balls. I bet you are ballless. That's why you sound the way you do. I bet you that's why you're so small. And I would get really upset because they would do this right in front of everyone else. And they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care my reaction. If I reacted, they thought that it would be even more funny. And they did it to elicit me being upset and And that really upset me throughout the rest of middle school, and I tried my hardest to be invisible. When I transitioned into high school, though, that was when one of the most difficult bullying experiences I've ever had happen to me. And I've talked about this in previous YouTube videos. I was in band, and at the end of 8th grade and the beginning of 9th grade, there is a period of time where they do this summer band camp where the high school band students prepare their marching repertoire for their football games through the fall semester. And I was signed up for band camp. I was really excited. It was something that I needed to do, especially after the fact that my grandmother, who I was very close to, passed away probably a week before this was happening. Well, I get to band camp, everything's going great, I get signed up, I get settled away, and then I realize that I have to spend the night in a dorm room full of guys who are much older than me, like 4 years older than me. And I knew, like, deep down, I knew that that spelled bad news. I knew something bad was going to happen. That night was probably one of the most horrible nights in my entire life, and it was one of the first moments I actually contemplated suicide. That night, I did not get any sleep because all of the other guys were up, you know, throwing things, flashing flashlights in my eyes. The person below me was kicking the bottom of my bed. I heard a few instances of them calling me faggot. And I could not handle this. I remember laying in my bed under my blanket or my sleeping bag, and I was just like, I want to leave. I want to be invisible. I want to be invisible so nobody can see me and make fun of me. And that night, I couldn't stop thinking about wanting to go kill myself. I remember there was about this 1 to 2 hour time span where in my mind I was making a plan to kill myself that night. There was a lake down below the hill where we would have swimming and stuff like that. And at that point, I did not know how to swim, so I was like, you know, I could just go down to that lake and jump in and deal with this problem. I wouldn't have to deal with their bullying anymore, and they wouldn't have to deal with the freak anymore. I don't know how I got through that night. I cried. I basically, my mind turned inside out. And I just wanted to be gone. The next morning, the bullying continued. I thought that it had stopped. I got so hopeful when the sun rose because I was like, you know, it's daytime, people are gonna start acting like they should be, but that wasn't the case. Every morning at band camp, we had these dorm inspections where the drum majors would come through, and they would make sure that our dorm was clean and organized. Well, they didn't want to do this. The other guys thought that it would be funny to pull a prank and make the dorm look horrible in every way. So, first off, they wanted to do something really funny, and they hatched this idea of shoving a towel down their pants to make it look like they had big balls. And this made me very uncomfortable. I was like, I do not want to shove a towel down my pants. That's just awkward. Like, we need to be focusing on cleaning and all that jazz. And instantly everyone was like, oh my gosh, this person's a stick in the mud. They don't want to have fun. Like, why is this person even here? Why is this fag here? And after I was bullied and I was called insults for a few minutes while everyone was trying to create this elaborate plan. People were shoving towels down their pants. They also decided that they wanted to take all of the musical instruments and throw them out in the middle of the floor, and I didn't want this to happen because my instrument meant a lot to me. My parents had spent a lot of money on it, and it was my baby. And I remember trying to move it, trying to hide it, but someone grabbed it away from me and threw it out onto the pile of instruments, and it ended up being buried under everything else. And at that point, I was overwhelmed. I was like, I can't be here. I need to leave this dorm right now, because if I don't, I will break down and they will make fun of me even more. So I go to exit the building, like the side of the building. I was hoping that nobody would see me, but they did. Two guys who were older than me grabbed me by each arm and held me back, and they tried to push me down and hold me in place and drag me back into the dorm. And I don't know what I did. Like, I just was enraged at that moment. Like, I have never felt so much rage, and I've never been that upset in my life. I threw my arms to the side, and they backed away because I was flailing a lot, and I ran. I ran as fast as I could. I was crying. I ended up going into the chapel on the campsite, and it was empty. It was quiet. It was the only place where I could actually be away from everyone. And I remember just bursting out crying. I cried so hard that it physically hurt my body to cry. And one of the camp counselors noticed me and came in and was talking to me, and after that happened, I was allowed to not stay the night at band camp for the rest of the week. I just was driven up to the campsite. But I will never, ever forget that night. I remember thinking a lot about my grandma, and just the fact that I was still dealing with the pain of losing her, and dealing with these, fag, queer, homo comments, nearly sent me over the edge. And that was the first moment in my life where I actually wanted to die.